Breaking news tonight. Mack Daddy. Yeah, you heard me right. Sean Combs, a.k.a. Diddy, now humiliated as he is forced to use $1 cans of mackerel, fish, as jail currency. What happened to the private jets, the private chef, all of those minions at his beck and call? He is dealing in mackerel. This in a bombshell bid for a trial delay. Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. Thank you for being with us.
Jailed rapper and musician Sean Puffy Combs hit with more charges amidst a federal sex trafficking case that alleges the musician used his power and status in the music industry to coerce unknowing victims.
I wouldn't put it past the feds at this juncture. There's now a third superseding indictment to add more charges because we are learning more about an alleged shooting that went down in a studio. But first, can we get to the canned mackerel? What? Okay, listen to this.
Inmate 37452-054, otherwise known as Sean Diddy Combs, will be housed in Ford North at the Metropolitan Detention Center for at least 48 more days if his trial begins on time. Combs has spent most of his time in the unit's visiting room with his lawyers or the video call room with his laptop that cannot access the internet to work through the mountain of evidence that prosecutors have turned over. Combs' exorbitant monetary value hasn't gotten him anywhere behind bars, forced to use a more humiliating currency. Instead of cash, inmates trade packets of mackerel known as Macks on sale at the Commissary for $1 each.
Boo-hoo. Poor Diddy. All those millions and millions, some people say $1 billion of net worth, and he's trading cans of mackerel for favors behind bars. Got an all-star panel lined up, but first, straight out to Crime Stories investigative reporter Sydney Sumner. Sydney, canned mackerel? What?
Right, Nancy. That's the only form of currency that they can come up with behind bars at the Metropolitan Detention Center. So there's obviously no exchange of cash. And from what we've heard before, we know that the commissary is pretty strict. They don't really allow you to stockpile things. You can only spend $180 in commissary every 2 weeks. So the inmates have come up with this system where they trade these packets of tuna as $1. They cost $1 in the commissary. So if you needed something that would have cost $5, but they wouldn't let you buy it from commissary, you can hand me 5 packets of mackerel instead.
Okay, so Sean Combs is now a Mack dealer?
Apparently, Nancy.
Okay, first, Sydney, let me correct you. It's a subtle but important distinction. Mackerel is not tuna. But that said, the gist of your reporting is correct. Now joining me, a special guest, Dr. Dwayne Hendricks, former Associate Warden, MDC in Brooklyn, former Senior Warden with the U.S. Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Prisons, founder, president, a New Daylight Foundation, author of Who Are You? See It, Say It, Seize It. And you can find him at newdaylightfoundation.com. Dr. Dwayne Hendricks. So Sean Combs is now a Mack dealer. Did you realize that the humiliation he must be going through, all those millions, all those designers' clothes, drenched in jewelry, dope chains around his neck that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and now he's shuffling cans of mackerel? Really? Did you know about the black market currency of dealing in Mack behind bars?
Well, as they say in prison, commissary is currency. And a lot of those individuals, once they immerse themselves in the jail or prison culture, they use commissary to pay off debts, to get favors. I know they were early reporting when he first got there, the inmates were doing his laundry for him. So they use those items.
What? Wait. Okay. Dr. Bethany Marshall, hold on. Hendricks, don't move. Joining me, renowned psychoanalyst out of Beverly Hills. Joining us, Dr. Bethany Marshall at drbethanymarshall.com, author of Deal Breaker. You can see her now on Peacock. Dr. Bethany, did you hear what he just said? Wherever Sean Combs goes, he has a fleet of minions. So before he could order cheesecake at 3 o'clock in the morning and actually get somebody to go out and get it. People waiting on him, hand and foot, surrounded by a phalanx of, as I said, minions. Now he's got minions making up his bed and cleaning. How hard is it to pull one blanket up? You got to get another inmate to do that for you? I know this means something, but what?
Okay, Nancy, I guess P. Diddy needs staff, right? No, seriously, I've compared his culture of sex trafficking to a cult where he's always the leader and the benefits flow towards him. And I think he's creating that same culture in behind bars, Nancy. You know, the mackerel is currency. I once worked with a female consultant who worked with women behind bars, and they would take Jolly Rancher candies. They would melt them down in the microwave and use them as they would sell them. They would pass them around as some kind of favor. So, you know, he had billions before. Now he has cans of mackerel. He's going to use whatever he has.
Okay, I'm just trying to take everything you just said with a box of salt. What is happening with Diddy behind bars? This as he makes a bombshell bid for a trial delay. Eric Faddis joining me, renowned attorney joining us, founding partner Varner Faddis Elite Legal. Eric Faddis, delay, delay, delay. But what about the mighty brought so low? The fact that Sean Combs is now dealing in cans of mackerel behind bars. But the significance of this is not just the fish in a can, it's trading it for what? What is he trading it for? Is someone going to testify for him? Is there a deal in the works of some sort? Because we know from, especially from a recent New York Times article, his life behind bars is monotonous. Bed checks, mackerel. His digs have been upgraded. We found out about that. But this is a time for him to focus on his trial. What do you make of the request for a delay?
Yeah, Nancy. Well, luckily, there's no crime against possession with the intent to distribute mackerel, so he won't be receiving an added charge on that. Hey, look, delay is a common tactic on behalf of the defense. What they're arguing is that there were some messages and information regarding one of the alleged victims that was not turned over and that they need more time to go through that. They're claiming that there were like 200,000 items that were not turned over from the prosecution. And so defense is going to use that by saying, hey, we're being ambushed. We're being bombarded. We have no time to prepare for this. We need some more time, Judge. I would not be surprised if a motion to continue trial comes
Hold
up.
on. Whoa. No time. Kayla Brantley joining me, investigative reporter with DailyMail.com and star of the Trial of Diddy podcast. Kayla, don't you remember at the get-go how Sean Combs was railing about going to jail and how he can't wait to get in court to prove his innocence? But now we hear they're wanting a delay?
Yeah, Nancy. Well, Diddy has been behind bars since September. That's 8 months now, and he still has a little bit less than a month to go. So one would think that he would try to, get into court, plead his innocence. But when you think about it, 8 months for all of the evidence that they go through, for all the witnesses that his team has to, collect and all that there is to prepare, 8 months really hasn't been that much time to bring forth a solid case.
While Diddy is poring over documents and trading Mack behind bars, we learned that he's actually gotten an upgrade at the MDC. That's right, Diddy got an upgrade. Listen.
While the public has been led to believe Sean Diddy Combs is languishing in a tiny cell at the MDC, it turns out the disgraced mogul is having a blast behind bars. Combs has been moved to the lowest security unit in the prison, 4 North, where he has access to a tablet, cards, music, TV, movies, ping pong, air hockey, and even a peep show. Who needs expensive freak-offs when you can spy on female inmates through a grate in the floor?
Speaking of expensive freak-off parties for him, not for the women that were allegedly all on video. We understand that video is going to be introduced at the trial. I'm going to get to that. First, my head is spinning because I just heard basketball, ping pong. I happen to know that there are yoga classes. What? I mean, hey, Dr. Dwayne Hendricks, what kind of spa are you running? Yoga, basketball, ping pong, a laptop. What? He's now in the 4 North dorm style living? What? Yoga?
Yes, he's over in the East building. There's 1 million square feet of space over at the MDC, and there's an East and a West building. And typically,
But let me just drink that in. Hold on. Did you say 1 million square
yes,
feet of space? Hold on. Let me throw something at you. Microwaves, exercise balls, exercise mats, movies, music that you pick, your individual selection, tablets, what, lasagna night, pasta fazool, radios, watches in the commissary. I mean, this is my handwriting. I'm sure I wrote it, but can that be correct?
all is correct except for the microwaves. They took the microwaves out back in 2012. The inmates do have access to hot water at a temperature of about 180 degrees so they can warm up packets of rice or other
Wait,
noodles.
why did they take the microwave away? Were they heating up liquid and throwing it on each other? They're such a fun bunch.
Cooking, you can imagine these guys get very creative. They cook all types of things.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So we took the microwaves back in 2012 for security reasons, but yet they do have access to hot water. But yes, he is placed
Hendricks,
in.
how can you look at me with a straight face and say the microwaves were taken away because of their creative cooking? And you can imagine, you mean like cooking up a Molotov? What? Why were the microwaves taken away? Now try to tell the truth.
I'm telling the truth because they were cooking and then taking parts off the microwave, making shanks and other things. So we just took them out.
Okay, I can only imagine what they were cooking up. Let's see, microwave exercise balls, floor mats, movies, music, tablets for purchase. I had no idea that you can buy radios and watches at the MDC Commissary. True? False?
True. And you can buy music. You can download music through the commissary, and there's several thousands of songs that you can download onto your particular radio for your
Isn't
listening
this
pleasure.
supposed to be jail?
Well, I mean, they have to have something to do to monitor their time, especially in a jail situation where they're not really taking reentry programs and different things of that nature. So these things
Okay,
are there.
you know what? To Dr. Kimberly Melman Orozco joining us, Executive Director, Freedom Light and Human Trafficking Expert Witness, author of Hidden in Plain Sight, America's Slaves of the New Millennium. Dr. Kimberly, I wonder how the alleged victims, and this goes back 20 years. That's why we've got a third superseding indictment. These indictments are multi-count. All the women that claim that they were drugged, stripped, and raped on video, where guys would pose their limbs to be raped on video. Wonder how they feel about the exercise balls, the exercise mats, the yoga, the basketball, the laptop, lasagna night. How do you think they feel about Diddy kicked back watching his favorite movie right now?
I think that it's certainly an area of concern. I think when you expect punishment, when you expect penance, when you expect incarceration, you expect to see a lot of the freedoms and luxuries of life taken away. And I think to some extent that has happened. But I think that when you're hearing that they're engaging in other forms of currency and downloading music and having leisurely exchanges with each other, it is an area of concern. And I think it would be disconcerting to his alleged victims.
Kayla Brantley joining me, dailymail.com investigative reporter and star of the trial of Diddy. Kayla, you and I were talking just yesterday about the very likely trial delay at Sean Combs' request, but can I get you to hone in on Diddy's upgrade behind bars? Yoga mats? Exercise balls? Lasagna night? When did this
I
happen?
mean, Nancy, while it might sound like Diddy's having a great time with, the yoga mats and the exercise balls and the movies, if you look at these pictures that are on the screen right now, this is Diddy in the club holding up an expensive bottle of tequila, Diddy with a crown on his head as if he's a king of the castle, him with shots right there. He is a far cry from where he was. So while it might sound like, it's sad when you're going from living in the lap of luxury to a 8 by 10 cell. That's a big difference. So I'm sure he's not having the greatest time of all behind bars.
Wait a minute. Whoa. Hold on. Kayla Brantley, wait a minute. I don't think you're completely familiar with the new housing situation Diddy is enjoying. It's more of a dorm style. Listen.
Combs is now housed in a dorm-style unit of the MDC reserved for up to 20 high-profile prisoners. 4 North is known to have looser rules than Gen Pop and boasts marginally better meals than what Combs was receiving on Suicide Watch, including chicken sandwiches, hot dogs, and wings. In addition to many forms of entertainment, Combs is allowed 300 minutes of phone time each month, but still does not get a pillow for his less than twin-size bed.
Chicken sandwiches, hot dogs, wings, 300 minutes of phone time. What? This is a dorm style situation. He's not sitting in an 8 by 11 jail cell. He has definitely gotten an upgrade. I mean, I don't get lasagna night.
No, I agree. I think he definitely has gotten an upgrade, that's for sure. But he's not in a 5-star hotel. He's not in the mansions that he's used to. He's not having his butlers get him cheesecake at 3 a.m. and he's certainly not having caviar or filet mignon. So while it is an upgrade, it's still not to the level and the status that he's accustomed to. So he still is definitely in some type of detention. While for, a lot of us normal people, it might seem, not that bad. For him coming from his status, it is a huge change.
How could a beautiful young first grade teacher be stabbed 20 times, including in the back, allegedly die of suicide? Yes, that was the medical examiner's official ruling. After a closed-door meeting, he first named it a homicide. Why? What happened to Ellen Greenberg? A huge American miscarriage of justice. For an in-depth look at the facts, see What Happened to Ellen on Amazon. All proceeds to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
Sean Combs pleads not guilty to additional charges brought forth in his federal sex trafficking case as his trial looms ahead.
This, as we learn, not only does Sean Combs want a big delay, that's the defense attorney's best friend, but we are learning that the freak-off videos will very likely be brought into evidence by the state. Listen.
Sean Combs pleads not guilty to the new charges, his legal team contending the allegations are not new. His defense claims the accusers remain the same, former long-term girlfriends who engaged in a consensual sexual relationship with the rapper. Combs insists the escapades that prosecutors refer to as freak-offs were not coerced commercial acts, but joint decisions between romantic partners to bring other partners into their bed. Combs claims the freak-off tapes prosecutors plan to submit as evidence will clearly show all parties are active and eager participants.
Straight out to Chris McDonough joining me, Director Cold Case Foundation, former homicide detective, star of The Interview Room on YouTube, where I found him. But for my purposes right now, he was also a Vice investigator. Chris McDonough, this is the oldest defense in the book. Quote, she asked for it. That's their defense. With all those high-powered lawyers, and they've just added, I believe, Mark Garagos and Brian Steele, both with whom I am familiar. That said, same old, same old. Same old, she asked for it. It's consensual.
Yeah, how many times have we heard this, right, Nancy? In all the years that you've been doing this, I mean, of course it is, right? I mean, you always fly in other sex workers from around the United States for a consensual contact. I mean, this is absolutely, uh, classic. It's right in line with his personality, and if all goes right, those watches are going to come in handy because he's going to be able to watch that time for quite some time.
Well put. Guys, get this, Dr. Bethany Marshall. Listen to this analysis. Sean Combs is going to have to say with a straight face to a jury, as they are watching a freak off video, which has been purported to be women who have been doped, naked, covered in baby oil, with guys positioning their limbs to get a better angle as they are being. That's what we've been told. Maybe it's completely wrong, but if it is wrong, why is the state trying to introduce it? But listen to this, Dr. Bethany. The defense is these women were all his girlfriends, some of them long term, who engaged in consensual sex with the rapper. Wait a minute. Does that include Cassie Ventura? We got a little peek into their, quote, consensual relationship. That doesn't look consensual to me, Dr. Bethany. Cassie Ventura was trying to get away from one of these freak-offs that he was having in his hotel room. Okay, hit me, Dr. Bethany.
Okay, Nancy, I call this the swinger defense. He's going to say that he and his female partners were swingers, meaning that they consensually brought in other couples or other individuals who were also swingers. But this does not meet criteria for this sexual subculture. In swingers culture, usually if there's a heterosexual couple, they will bring in one or two women. They do not bring in other men. So if there was an expert on the stand, and there are certainly experts in my field who work with groups of people who are all in sexual configurations, maybe multiple partners, they would say that this not only does sex trafficked workers not meet criteria, but the very configuration of how they're throwing these parties doesn't meet criteria. Also, the aggression towards Cassie Ventura in swinger communities, everybody is very harmonious. They're there because they want to be there.
Please join us on our mission to find missing people, especially children, to solve unsolved homicides. If you're on the go, catch us on your favorite podcast app, where you can get all of our content, where we, in our own way, seek justice.
Diddy's lawyers want potential jurors questioned about their willingness to watch sensitive content, in a move some experts speculate could mean the infamous freak-off videos will be shown to the jury at trial.
Eric Faddis, I'm sure you, like me, have conducted many voir dires. In fact, I don't have any nightmares about trying cases. That's where I'm the happiest, like a bird out of a cage. I feel better trying a case than being out of the courtroom. But that said, I do have one recurring nightmare, and it is the impaneling questions. When you first strike a jury, you ask the jury 4 or 5 impaneling questions. And if any of them raise their hand, they can't be on the jury, such as, are you a resident of, in my case, Fulton County, inner city Atlanta? And if they are not, then they're immediately off the jury. There's several impaneling questions, and in this bad dream, I always stand up and I can't find and can't remember the impaneling questions, then we have to break, okay? That's my big nightmare. That said, have you ever encountered a request to conduct voir dire, jury selection, without talking to the jurors?
I haven't seen something go that far. I've certainly seen juror questionnaires, and I've been involved in cases that have them. You know, part of the purpose, according to the defense,
well, of course, there's juror questionnaires, for Pete's sake. There's always juror questionnaires, but they want to conduct voir dire, jury selection, in writing. No.
It seems like a misfire to me because you need the jurors to expound upon their answers. Sometimes a juror put, 1, 2 word answer. You got to know what that means. You want to ask them. You want to see their demeanor. You want to see, when you're talking about freak offs and sex videos, you want to see who is aghast at that because those folks, from a defense perspective, are folks you don't want on the jury. And so just written questionnaire seems a little too sterile, a little too neutral. I think there needs to be some interpersonal communication with these jurors to learn precisely how they feel.
Dr. Bethany Marshall, it's because of the freak off tapes. The defense is worried, obviously. They're so worried about the freak off tapes that they're trying to specifically select jurors that won't be upset when they see whatever's on those tapes.
But jurors who won't be upset are jurors who are acculturated to those kinds of situations. Maybe they've gone to those kinds of parties, or they think that this kind of sexual activity is okay. So those kinds of jurors are likely not to find P. Diddy guilty.
Okay, I understand where you're coming from, but I don't know how that's really going to play out once they see these videos, and I have reason to believe that more than one freak-off tape will be presented at trial. I mean, Sydney Sumner, you and I remember when the raid went down, there were boxes and boxes and bags of video equipment, 1,000 bottles of baby oil, and more taken out of the home, the mansion. That tells me there's a lot of video, Sydney.
I would completely agree, Nancy. There's got to be hundreds of tapes at least. I mean, Tony Busby claims he had 120 victims. That's just a ballpark number. And we know that these superseding indictments also expanded the years that prosecutors claim this behavior went on.
And just think about it. So the defense is looking for men and women that won't get upset when they see whatever is in those freak-off tapes. It's happening. The tapes are coming into evidence. There's a lot of legal hoops you have to jump through to get in video evidence, and you'd be totally bored if Faddis and I talked about that, so I will move on to the fact that the defense wants to select the jury through writing. Okay, that's not happening. Forget about it. But Sean Combs is, quote, lawyering up. Listen.
Sean Diddy Combs is making final adjustments to his defense team ahead of the trial. After Anthony Rico's sudden exit from the team, Combs is reportedly moving to add celebrity attorney Mark Garagos, who has previously represented Michael Jackson, Chris Brown, Colin Kaepernick, Jussie Smollett. Garagos' daughter, Tenny, is already part of the team, and Garagos has reportedly been advising on the case, but he may take more of a lead role in the courtroom. Combs is reportedly also searching for a black woman willing to represent him, possibly looking to diversify, as some of his previous arguments call the government's case racist.
Okay. Now we're hearing, Sydney Sumner, that in the last 24 hours that Sean Combs has added an Atlanta lawyer that I know fairly well, Brian Steele. Now, let me just give you my off-the-cuff reaction. When I would see Steele coming down the courthouse hall at me to work a deal, or we'd go to set it for trial, it wasn't revulsion, okay? He is a great lawyer. He's likable. He has a really good way with a jury. I could see him, and Garagos both, frankly, adding a lot to the defense team. Steele did not just fall off the turnip truck, and of course, neither did Mark Garagos. So what's the thinking? I mean, what do we know about this very recent decision? He's already got a fleet of lawyers, so why is he adding Garagos and Steele?
Nancy, I think Diddy just wants every single person in his corner that he can get. Anyone who has defended a similar case, he wants in his corner. He wants as many heads as possible working on how to make that outcome not guilty.
Well, this is after one lawyer voluntarily left Diddy's defense.
Just ahead of his sex trafficking and racketeering trial, Anthony Rico, one of Combs' high-powered defense attorneys, has suddenly quit the case. Rico filed a brief motion asking to be relieved of his duties, saying, quote, "Under no circumstances can I continue to effectively serve as counsel for Sean Combs." Rico gives little context to the statement in the filing to protect attorney-client privilege, but the withdrawal seems to come with approval from lead attorney Mark Agnifilo. Rico promises his recusal will not delay trial or leave Combs high and dry, with 5 other attorneys still actively working on the case.
Hunter Biden and Michael Jackson's former lawyer Mark Garagos is rumored to take up the task of defending Diddy in his upcoming federal sex trafficking trial. Will he be successful?
In addition to what we believe will be damning freak-off videos, and let me tell you, it's not just one of them, judging by what was taken out of Sean Combs' mansion, video equipment, videos, baby oil, you name it. I'm anticipating a lot of videos being produced at trial by the state, which is telling, but now more violence rears its ugly head as a damning claim against Diddy. Listen.
New details from an LAPD police report show neither Sean or Justin Combs were questioned in relation to a 2022 shooting that Rodney Jones claimed happened inside Chalice Studios at the father and son's hands. The report claims surveillance video captured the victim being shot by Rudolph Flowers as he got into his car parked a half block from Chalice. The victim then ran back to Chalice for help and was found by officers sitting in a black folding chair outside. Jones' attorney Tyrone Blackburn says the police report reflects the story Sean Combs instructed everyone to tell, and points out the report makes no mention of muzzle flashes in the video. Blackburn claims he has several witnesses to confirm Jones' version of events, but has not revealed their identities.
Guys, you saw a commode totally covered in blood. That's the incident we're talking about. Why wasn't Sean Combs questioned following this incident? And why do we care about this incident? Because it goes hand in hand to prove that guns and weapons may have been used as a threat on the freak-off victims. We hear the same thing over and over and over. Specifically, listen.
Record producer Rodney Lil Rod Jones claims Sean Combs sexually harassed, drugged, and threatened him in a previous lawsuit, but now Jones says Combs and his son are involved in a shooting at an LA recording studio, Chalice, but Combs had the story changed to where the shooting occurred blocks away from the studio. Jones claims Combs' son Justin and a friend known only as G got into a beef in the bathroom. A shot is fired and Sean Combs and his son Justin come out of the bathroom, leaving G to bleed all over the floor. Jones claims he takes G to a waiting ambulance and he's taken to the hospital. Police reports indicate the shooting took place blocks away from the studio.
The significance of this prior shooting incident cannot be underestimated. We have scores of photos of the shooting scene afterwards, but for some reason, Sean Combs was never questioned, and then somehow the story changed to where the shooting occurred. But we have the pictures of the blood, and it goes hand in hand with the story that the victim was propped up on a commode and EMTs were called. Look at it. How can that have happened at another location where the photos prove it happened there? Why would Sean Combs lie about it? This goes hand in hand with multiple shooting incidents. Listen.
Investigators may also be taking a second look into the 1999 Club New York shooting based on allegations in Rodney Jones' lawsuit that Combs bragged about bribing witnesses and jurors at trial, sharing that he pulled the trigger that night, not Jamal Shine Barrow. Barrow served nearly 9 years in prison for opening fire and injuring 3 during an altercation with another club goer while out celebrating a new record deal with Combs and his girlfriend at the time, Jennifer Lopez. The lawsuit alleges Combs shared that Lopez carried the gun and passed it to him during the altercation. Victim Natanya Rubin has also long insisted that Combs shot her, not Barrow. Lopez was never charged in the shooting, and Combs was acquitted of 4 counts criminal possession of a weapon and bribery.
If these allegations are brought in a similar transactions, Jennifer Lopez may be dragged into this trial. After all, the significance cannot be underestimated. Let me say it again. Introducing violence like this on these victims, and of course, in addition to the J-Lo incident, how can we complete the conversation without mentioning the late, the great Tupac Shakur.
Dwayne Keefe D. Davis claims credit for Tupac's murder on BET and in his memoir. He says Puffy Combs wanted Knight and Tupac's heads after their diss track Hit 'Em Up. When Davis offers to carry out the hits, Combs agrees to pay him $1 million.
Eric Faddis, gunshots, gunshot wounds, shootouts, one victim after the next. Tupac Shakur is dead. Then you have the shooting at the studio where we just showed the pictures that corroborate what the victim said, being propped up on a commode as he was bleeding out. He lived, by the way, to tell the tale, but nobody's listening. Now you have more threats by gun. Eric, this is very serious. Forget about the mackerel and the upgrade at the MDC. I'm very surprised that there isn't a fourth superseding indictment on gun and gunshot charges.
Yeah, Nancy, it wouldn't be unusual when you look at the federal RICO charge itself. One thing it alleges is a pattern of conduct in which Diddy uses his resources and affiliates and sometimes violence to manipulate the legal system, to intimidate witnesses, to tamper with evidence. And so these allegations regarding these shootings go hand in hand with that he is using that style of manipulation. And that is his approach. That's his strategy to try to keep himself out of trouble. And so it wouldn't be unusual for the prosecution to try to bring up those things as either similar transactions or as additional charged offenses.
Jailed rapper and musician Sean Puffy Combs hit with more charges amidst a federal sex trafficking case that alleges the musician used his power and status in the music industry to coerce unknowing victims.
This, as we learn, that the Sean Combs defense team has subpoenaed and demanding access to raw, unedited interviews and materials from the investigation discovery documentary, The Fall of Diddy. And I think I know why. Listen.
Combs' legal team is demanding access to the raw, unedited interview and materials from the investigation discovery documentary, The Fall of Diddy. The defense is also asking for any notes or journals sent to the series producers and records of any payments that may have been made to two specific interviewees. Combs' former chef, referred to as Individual A, and Individual B, a former girlfriend. The chef spoke out about how Combs treated her, as well as rumors she heard about Combs' behavior, while his ex-girlfriend discussed their relationship, including an alleged incident of sexual assault. Legal reps for parent company Warner Brothers are asking the New York judge to squash the subpoena, citing reporter's privilege.
Sydney Sumner, investigative reporter. I'll tell you why I think that Sean Combs' defense team wants all the outtakes to that particular documentary and probably others similar to it. They want to see what landed on the cutting room floor. They want to see if there's anything that was edited out that they can use to cross-examine these potential witnesses. I think that's what they're after.
Most definitely, Nancy. They're looking for anything exculpatory, anything that is contrary to what the general narrative is. They want to make Combs not look like this monster, but a father figure with a weird sex life.
All of this is brewing as the state suffers a blow. Now, it may not seem like a blow to you, but it is a blow. A major claim against Sean Combs' colleague and longtime friend, Jay-Z, has been dropped amid a lot of controversy. I want you to hear Jane Doe. Now, this is a client that Tony Busby, who was going up against Jay-Z, this was one of his clients, Busby's clients. Listen to her caught on the phone with Jay-Z's private investigator.
He was just there, but he didn't have anything to do with any sexual acts towards you. It was strictly...
Yeah. He was the one that kind of pushed me towards going forward with him.
With Jay-Z? Busby did?
Yeah.
Do you know why?
No.
That secretly recorded conversation is from our friends at ABC. Sydney Sumner, that was a major blow because If it is suggested that Tony Buzzy fabricated a case against Jay-Z, you see where I'm going with this? It's going to be alleged he fabricated cases against Sean Combs. That's where that is headed. That is why a victory for Jay-Z, I mean, that whole case was dismissed. And Jay-Z said from the get-go, that didn't happen. Now, if Busby is somehow discredited, his other claims can be discredited too, claims against Sean Combs, including potential victims in the criminal case. See?
Yes, this could be potentially devastating for all of the victims that Busby claims to represent. And that's exactly what Jay-Z is accusing him of is in this defamation lawsuit. Jay-Z says Busby made the whole thing up. He pushed his client to do this. But an important distinction, the victim, Jane Doe, who is on that recording saying those things, has now come back and said, you know, I was terrified when these PIs showed up on my doorstep. I said whatever I thought they wanted me to say so that they would leave me alone because she filed this anonymously. Her name is Jane Doe. That's all we know about this victim. And she has done a few public anonymous interviews, but she does not want her name out there. So the fact that these two PIs showed up on her doorstep unannounced was terrifying for her.
Is it the beginning? Is it the first domino in a whole series of dominoes to fall for the state? I don't think so, but it does present a problem. We wait as justice unfolds, and now we remember an American hero, Police Officer Eddie Mundo Jr., LaGrange Police, Kentucky, killed in the line of duty. A U.S. Marine Corps vet survived by grieving wife Brandy and son Julian. American hero, Officer Eddie Mundo Jr. Thank you to our guests, but especially to you for being with us tonight and every night. And a big shout out right now to @TrueCrimeBroads, Crystal and Renee. They are dedicating a bench at Kimmel Park in Midlothian, Texas to murder victim Missy Beavers. That dedication? Saturday, this Saturday, 10 a.m. Way to go, ladies. Please keep Missy's memory alive as we seek justice. Nancy Grace signing off. I'll see you tomorrow night, 6 and 9 o'clock sharp Eastern, and until then, good night, friend. Please join us on our mission to find missing people, especially children, to solve unsolved homicides. If you're on the go, catch us on your favorite podcast app where you can get all of our content where we, in our own way, seek justice.